yeah, strike up the bands. It's high school football time. It's the WKYC.com high school football playoff game of the week selection show. I'm Dave DeNatale alongside TC Tyler Carey as we head to week number 12, second week of the postseason, Tyler. And, we'll kind of rehash and get ready here for this coming week. But I'm excited about this week's game. I think it's going to be, we wanted to get into Division III, Region 9 for this week.
Yeah, we've been talking about this one for, it seems like since week 5. We've been talking about this region.
We thought we might be on call it the top half of the bracket, if you will. But the way this is all going to turn out, I think we were in for a dandy on Friday night in Solon. The Chardon Hilltoppers and the Streetsboro Rockets.
You and I both kind of zeroed in on this game as soon as the matchups got released because we're thinking about, all right, what's the distance going to be? Where are they going to play it? And as soon as they said, all right, it's going to be in Solon, we said right away, that's our game.
Book it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And really two very good teams, two very different histories. One team is very used to going to the playoffs. The other just won their first postseason game in their program's history. Yeah. So that you got that backdrop and you got the talent on both these rosters. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is now, I mean, it was kind of like when we were with Kenston last year. For Streetsboro, this is uncharted territory. And every time you start winning postseason games, you get more confidence, you get more momentum. All year long, we talked about, boy, this Rocket team and this offense, and, they're putting points on the board against everybody. To beat St. Vincent St. Mary, though, is another thing in the playoffs. And records-wise and everything else, I mean, the Irish play a great schedule.
Absolutely.
I mean, they really do. So, that to me, when we were going through the scores Friday night and that was the win and the results, like, boy, these Rockets really are for real, and you have to take them seriously. And we don't always follow the Portage Trail Conference very closely.
I did a lot.
I know you did. Not all of us do, and so all of a sudden you're like, wow, this Rocket team is for real, and I think we're finding out they are certainly for real.
Believe it or not, Dino, the first high school football game I ever covered was 2013, Streetsboro against Champion. Week 1 over in, was it Mahoning or Trumbull County? I forget where Champion is, so forgive me. But I covered a lot of Streetsboro games, and they were always, pretty good. They can beat up on the bad teams, but then they would kind of run into a wall when they had to play the Mogadors or the Woodridges or whoever else was in that conference. And this year, just to see that run that they've gone on where they've pretty much blown out most of their competition, they did beat Ravenna in a close game. Yeah. Ravenna's a pretty good team. Obviously, St. V last week. And to the untrained eye, they may say, oh, it's a 2-7. You're not doing much there.
Yeah,
but we know
we
know how good St. V is.
Yeah.
We know that the history they have on the football field, winning championships. So to see them make the playoffs, it's the first time they made the postseason in 7 years. First playoff win ever, as I mentioned. It's really, as you mentioned, uncharted territory, and it's fun for me as somebody who's covered that conference for as long as I have. It is kind of fun to watch.
On the flip side, Mitch Hewitt and his Hilltoppers, they're always, they may get off to sluggish starts and this, that, or the other thing, but boy, he's about a coach that gets his team ready for October and November. I can't think of a better coach that's in the top of my head than Mitch Hewitt. And he's had Kenston's number now for 2 years in a row and a couple of knockoffs of the Bombers last year and earlier this season. And then you go on the road, really long trip from Chardon all the way down to Dover, and you come out of there with an upset victory. 9-2 now. I just sit there and go, it just works for Chardon. It works for them. The way they play defense, unconventional offense, sometimes they use the wing T, it works for them.
Absolutely.
And they're successful.
When you see it, we saw it last year again where they knocked off Chardon or Kenston. They did it again this year. There are only 2 losses, Dino, on the road at Perry, who's undefeated.
Yeah, nobody's beaten Perry.
They only lost to him by 8.
Yep.
And on the road against Mayfield, undefeated. They only lost 21-7. So it tells you that their only 2 losses are to 2 of the best teams in the state right now. And this is a team that has had Joey Trevisano was their quarterback last week. He's a running back by trade, but he's had to play some quarterback for them, and he did very well, scored 3 touchdowns in that game over the Tornadoes last week. Their defense really clamped down on the road. And as you mentioned, this is a team that has that history of going into the playoffs and going on these deep runs. They've won a state championship in the past. And it really is that contrast with Streetsboro where this is new for them.
Yeah, and now you're also playing on a neutral site. And you know, it's a good venue. I think Solon's one of the nicer venues on the east side of Cleveland.
Absolutely.
Over at Stewart Field. The McQuaids do a great job. James and Jim, the head coach, and the athletic director, his son James, is kind of the media coordinator. They do a great job. So I look for an exciting, electrifying night. It's two teams that kind of approach things differently, and as we said, different backgrounds, but they're here. And, you know, it's an opportunity now. You're one step away from playing for a regional championship.
And as we mentioned, I think any team in this region, but even before the playoffs started, was capable of winning this regional championship.
Haven't changed my thought on that
and
one bit.
Pretty much every game, all the 4 games in this region last week were close.
Yes.
The furthest game was the Chardon game. They won by 14 over Dover, and that's not an easy task. The Steubenville-Aurora game was a very good game.
Yep.
Kenston hung with New Philly. Very tough, and then we obviously mentioned the Streetsboro-St. V game already. I don't know who's going to win this region. I legitimately don't have a clear favorite in this region. I guess you maybe could say New Philly just because they're the top seed.
Right.
But it wouldn't shock me.
And the game with Aurora is going to be down in Canton, so it's a little bit closer for them. You know, the top seeds get the spoils. I still have my money on Aurora. I still think they're playing.
I think so too.
Playing terrific football. So we'll certainly be watching that game very closely as we're bringing you Chardon and Streetsboro in Division III, Region 9. Again, fasten the seatbelts, folks. We're in for a great, great, great night of football on Friday. Now, you know, I think, what did you tell me last week? There were
66 teams in our viewing area made the postseason. 33 of those teams, exactly half, got knocked off in the first round.
And remember, of course, you have a lot of, you know, area versus area matchups, so you're going to have that. But still 33 teams in our viewing area.
And a lot more area versus area matchups. Now, for the higher divisions, D1, D2, D3, for the most part, it worked out as we expected. The higher seed
Everything
won.
was mostly chalk.
Some of them were not close games. In some of the lower regions, though, we had some nail-biters in. Some of the top teams did go down in those lower regions. We'll get to that. We're going to start with the list. These are the regional semifinal games featuring area teams that you will see this Friday and Saturday night. Most of them will take place at 7 o'clock. If they don't, I will note them. But here we go. Division 1, Region 1. Canton-McKinley, the 4th seed, they will take on Menor. That game will be in Twinsburg.
Tyler Carey country.
Yep, my old stomping grounds. I'm very familiar with that stadium. And then they will play the winner of 3rd-seeded Euclid and 2nd-seeded St. Edward. The Eagles beat Medina 73-34 last Friday night. That game will be in Brunswick. That will actually kick off at 7:30. It is the only area game that's not going to kick off at 7 o'clock. I'm not sure why that is, but they did note that it will be at 7:30. I think you and I both agree that the favorites are Menor and St. Edward in this game. These games.
I think McKinley might be the toughest team that Menor has had to deal with. Maybe going back to that St. Edward, St. Ignatius
maybe besides
combo.
St. Edward, this is probably their toughest test of the year.
But just keep this in mind. I mean, Euclid defeated Canton-McKinley by a couple of points down at Tom Benson Stadium earlier in the year, Hall of Fame Stadium earlier this year. And then, I mean, Menor dismantled Euclid a few weeks ago. So will that all play out? Will it all kind of, you know, who knows? But it's just something to think about. I do think, you know, McKinley they're always tough in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I do think Menor is on a mission, and they're playing so well right now.
I will note in the national rankings this week, there was no movement. They stayed exactly where they were in each of the 5 polls. I think 14th was their lowest in USA Today, 7th in the Max Preps computer rankings. So there wasn't a lot of movement anywhere because a lot of teams haven't played yet. A lot of the better teams are winning their first round games if they're playing at all. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there if Menor can maybe move up if they continue to get these blowout wins against these very good teams. I am a little surprised it is at Twinsburg because it's not a small stadium, it's not the biggest stadium in the world, but I guess there really wasn't a better option for a halfway point between these two teams.
I thought, and we were talking to people in Bedford, they thought that they had a shot either for that game or for a Division II game.
Yeah.
And it turns out Bedford's going to actually be dark this weekend, which is
very surprising.
Yeah. I know they're not necessarily happy about it over there, but that's kind of the way it goes.
For Bulldog and Cardinal fans, good luck with the parking over in Twinsburg.
Arrive early.
That's all I'll say. We'll get to more stadium issues in a minute because we're going to get to Division 2 here. Starting with Region 5, Perry is going to play Massillon. I am really looking forward to that game.
Me too.
You know that there's that rivalry there, even though they don't play very much. Perry hates being called Massillon Perry all the time.
Yeah.
And elsewhere in that region, Hoban is going to play unbeaten Mayfield. That will be in Macedonia at Nordonia Stadium. The Massillon game is actually going to be in Lake Township in Uniontown.
Yeah.
Tickets sold out online in under 10 minutes. And
my goodness.
a lot of they're still going to be able to sell like their allotted tickets at the schools, but a lot of fans aren't happy that it's being played there. I think they're talking about getting more standing room only tickets. I am surprised they're not playing that game at Tom Benson.
I was too. That made more sense. And sometimes you don't know, what else is happening at a given school on a given night. But I was surprised that too. That to me, you've got the two rivals. I mean, you've got kids who've grown up, playing on the same, flag football teams, playing, pickup football together, being neighbors in some cases, and now. They're going at each other in a playoff game. I would have thought that game would be played.
Did they just not make a bid for it? I mean, because when I was a kid, I remember watching a lot of Twinsburg games at Fawcett Stadium when it was still called Fawcett Stadium, and it seems like for a while they haven't held games outside of the state championship there in Canton.
Yeah, and they may not have. They may not have made a bid for it, but that's going to be that'll be logistically kind of a difficult situation.
Definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
So that's Region 5, and then Region 6, Benedictine, who we saw what an incredible game that was last week, them coming back from 18 down to beat Brecksville Broadview Heights. They will take on top-seeded Avon. That will be in Parma at Byers Field. Yeah. Get ready, fans, for that one. And then Wadsworth, who got a huge win
over Old
Falls in their opening game. They will take on Avon Lake, who's playing about as well as anybody in the state right now. That'll be in your stomping grounds.
I love those two matchups. Strongsville, at Packatan Stadium. Just thoughts on the Benedictine game. Seeing them play Brecksville last week, it was amazing. If Benedictine can force turnover, they've got to do what they did last week against Brecksville. At some point, their defense has got to come up with turnovers to beat Avon, and Avon doesn't. Mike Elder's teams don't turn the ball over very much, but that to me is going to be the difference. If they can figure out a way to stop Avon and not, make it be another scoring game, then I think they've got a shot to win. Otherwise, Avon just top to bottom is so good, and I know they've had injuries, but they're still playing really well. I love that Wadsworth-Avon Lake game. I was telling Matt Florjancic and I have been talking about it, and if we couldn't have gone to the game we picked, we probably would have picked that one. The Grizzlies, tale of two seasons, right? We saw them got off to a great start. We certainly saw them against Highland play well, and then kind of tailed off a little bit.
Lost to Hudson,
and you're sitting there going, "Ooh, is Wadsworth even going to make the playoffs?" And then they pick it up at the end of the year, beat Brecksville in Week 10, and then get the win last week in convincing fashion against the very good Olmsted
And that's the thing, they're blowing people out. They're blowing these good teams away.
So all of a sudden you sit there and you go, that's the team we expect to see from the Grizzlies. But Avon Lake, as we said, they're playing on a different level right now. Matt Kostelnik has them defensively very, very strong. They run the football well. I mean, it's all those Dave DeLugas principles that he taught Coach Kostelnik, and that's what we're seeing now from Avon Lake. I could certainly see a scenario where it's Avon and Avon Lake playing a week from Friday, for a regional title. However, both, I think, Benedictine and Wadsworth are both capable of getting wins.
They definitely have the talent. I will say for Benedictine, I don't think they can afford to get down 18 points again against a team like Avon. Brecksville's a good team, but Avon is on a whole nother level.
And they're more experienced.
Absolutely. Yeah. They've been here before, and I think if they get into that hole, they're not going to climb out of it next time. All right, Division 3, Region 9. We've been talking about this, of course, a lot. We already mentioned the Chardon Streetsboro game in Solon at 7 o'clock. And then Aurora against top-seeded New Philly. That will be in Canton Township. I believe it's at Canton South Stadium. Obviously, two very, very good matchups there.
There's actually a little bit of history. when Aurora made their run to the Final Four in 2012, the first team they had to beat to start that playoff run. It was a memorable run. They didn't quite get all the way to the state championship game. They fell short against Toledo Central Catholic. First team they beat in that playoff run was New Philadelphia, and it was one of the more amazing playoff games I've had a chance to broadcast. This one, to me, I think Aurora's offense is going to get tested. Can they? I think defensively they're as good as anybody, but they're going to have to be able to score with New Philadelphia at some point. They're going to have to be able to match them, and I think that was the difference last week in their win against Steubenville, is that the offense played really well, especially in the second half.
Well, and that's certainly got to be a confidence booster. Whenever you beat a team like Steubenville, that's going to make you believe in yourselves even more than you already did. To go and play a team like New Philly, obviously a very good team. Barron may be the best quarterback in Northeast Ohio with the way he's been playing all year. Obviously, it could go either way, but I think you and I both said this may be the best Aurora team we've seen in a very long time.
Their pass rush is going to have to really come up big. I mean, they've got Aurora's got
Barner, the Ohio commit on the front.
They've got to create pressure. They've got to. I mean, that's something they've done so well all year long, but they're going to need to do it against New Philadelphia.
And then one more note about the Chardon Streetsboro game, which we'll be covering this week, as we mentioned. Player you're going to have to watch out for: Mike Hall, the defensive tackle. For Streetsboro. He's only a junior, already a 3-star recruit. Speculation is that he's maybe going to add a 4th star to it by next year. He's got offers from multiple schools, including Michigan State, Kentucky. The skinny is apparently he's leaning towards Ohio State right now.
Ryan Day's interested.
You may be seeing a future Buckeye on the field Friday night, but that'll, of course, be very fun to watch. Region 10 in Division 3. Sandusky is going to take on Norwalk, the top seed. They got a nice win over Glenville in the first round. That game will be in Bellevue. And then Holy Name out of Parma Heights having a very good year.
Congrats to the Green Wave. That was a nice win.
They will take on Mansfield in Worcester.
Yep.
So
again, you're Mansfield. You're one of the top seeds. You're the 2 seed in the region. You get the spoils of being a little bit closer to home and making Holy Name have to travel.
Yes,
but that's a nice win for the Green Wave, and we'll see what they can do if they can keep it going this week.
All right, Division 4. You and I were talking about this game before we went on the air. Cuyahoga Valley Christian Academy. They got a nice first round win. They're going to play, however, unbeaten 11-0 Perry, who it just seems like has blown through most of their schedule.
I asked you, boy, this has been a really great year for CVCA, and we've kind of, we haven't been able to cover them. I wanted to, but it's like they lost to Aurora 14-7. They lost to Orville 23-16. And I mean, they would like to have the Manchester game back. That one was kind of a clunker, but I mean, they've played some good competition. And
even Manchester's a team that beat Orville, right. and they lost. I know they lost by 20. CVCA did, but they've lost to some very good teams, and they've hung tough with some very good teams. Problem is, I don't know if they can hang with that Perry offense as good as it is.
I mean, nobody has. I mean, if you look at Perry, nobody has stopped them. They have scored at least 31 points in every game they have played this year. And by the way, they scored 31 points against Mitch Hewitt's Chardon Hilltopper defense.
A player you'll have to watch out for them who's been great for them all year, Jalen Anderson, the running back, 4-star recruit, only a junior. He's starting to get some looks from more of these teams. Their quarterbacks had a great year as well, just putting up these video game-like numbers.
The thing though for the Pirates that stands out to me, as much as we talk about their offense, last 3 weeks they've allowed 21 points in their last three games against Geneva, West G, and Girard in the playoffs last week. You keep doing that. I don't care how many points you score. You're gonna find success.
If they can find a way to stop them, then maybe the CVCA can pull off the upset. Region 14, we had some upsets. This is really our first big upset. LaGrange, the top seed,
Keystone,
Keystone, excuse me,
from LaGrange,
went down to 8th-seeded Clyde in the first round. A devastating loss for the Wildcats.
Our director Matt Babb, who is he lives down in that area. We were talking about it, and he goes, it's one of those things when you look at a 6-4 team that you're facing, you figure they've played a good schedule, and Clyde's over in that Sandusky Bay area. Good schedule. Hard-nosed team, battle-tested, went right into Keystone and beat a good Wildcats team. That surprised a lot of people.
And now Clyde will take on the only remaining local team in that region, Shelby, the 4th seed. Out of that game will be in Tiffin on Friday night. And also, I believe Region 15, Indian Valley was the only local team from that region, the 2 seed. They got upset So some big
Yeah.
losses in Region 4 for some of these top teams.
Yeah, and these are, of course, games on Saturdays, so we're not, actively out there covering them, but that's big. So it kind of really puts a lot of the pressure now on whoever wins between Perry and CVCA and obviously Shelby.
The lane is right there for Perry if they can somehow maybe at least get to that state championship game. Again, those games will be on Saturday night, as will the games in Division 5, which we'll get to right now. South Range, the 4th seed, going to take on top-seeded Kirtland in Niles. Kirtland had a lot closer game than I thought they would, only winning by 14 points.
Yeah, right, and sometimes you sit there and you go, maybe we're all we're a little greedy because we're used to Kirtland. I mean, just destroying everybody they play. But they beat Sandy Valley 38-24, and they had to work for it. And maybe that's a good thing because they hadn't had to work a whole lot this year.
It was a bit of a wake-up call for them.
Yeah. So this is South Range from, I believe that's from North Lima, Ohio, in the Canfield area. North Lima South Range. What do we know about them? They are 8-3 on the year.
2 overtime losses to some very good teams.
I mean, this is one of those teams, again, you would expect a Tiger Laverty team to go in, again, play good defense, force turnovers, and run the football, and pound that football. They can throw it if they have to, but pound the football.
I would bet he's emphasizing that in practice this week after a less than stellar performance in the opening round.
Clean things up, and they should be fine.
Now, the winner of that game will play the winner of an all-local matchup from Louisville on Saturday night. Garraway is going to take on New Franklin Manchester. Manchester playing really well, of course. They beat Oroville, I believe it was week 9. They're playing some of their best football in a long time, and maybe they could get a shot. I think they'd love a shot at Kirtland as well.
How a Kirtland-Manchester game, that would be fun. That would be a lot of fun. That's the closest to, that's about as close as of an opponent Kirtland would have in a playoff run to Canton. So
you can assume Kirtland wouldn't have to bring in the JV players in the second half in a game like that.
No, that would be an interesting battle. So first things for all year long, Sugar Creek Garraway has been a tough team. So we'll see how Manchester does, but I like how they're playing.
Absolutely. And then Region 18, we mentioned Oroville, the defending D5 state champions. In Lake Township in Wood County, they will take on third-seeded Pleasant. Pleasant got a very good win over the weekend, so it's a...
they have to play that in Wood County?
In Wood County, yeah. Wow. So a bit of a hike for Oroville there, but they're a very good team. Hopefully they can handle it. Region 6, this is back on Saturday night. Region...
back on Friday.
On Friday night, excuse me. I keep screwing that up. Yeah. Second-seeded Mogador will play Fort Fry, unbeaten Fort Fry, in St. Clairsville. And then in Region 22, Collins Western Reserve was the top seed in Region 22. They got upset by Carey, the 8th seed, and that is my last name, Carey, for those wondering. And now Carey is going to take on the only local team left in that region, Hillsdale. That game will be in Willard.
Yep.
So, I think Mogador's, of course, got a shot to go back to the state championship game.
That was one of the first things when we found out Kirtland was moving up from 6 to 5. First thing I thought was, boy, it opens the door now for Mogador. And, I mean, they're going to be tested here in the next couple weeks, but I still believe that they could take a road to Canton.
And then Division 7, back on Saturday night. In Ravenna, Cuyahoga Heights, the top seed in Region 25, will take on 5th-seeded Warren John F. Kennedy, a school with a very good history of winning in the playoffs. And then
blue turf game for the
Smurf turf. I covered some games there too. Very, very, very fun all the time. And then one more all-local matchup. This is the last all-local matchup. 6th-seeded St. Thomas Aquinas got an upset win in their opening round game. They will take on number 2 Lucas in Canal Fulton.
Who knocked out Independence?
Warren JFK.
Gotcha.
Because Independence was the 4th seed.
Right. That's right.
So Warren JFK will play Cuyahoga Heights, the Redskins. And then Region 26, one more. Norwalk St. Paul in Fremont will take on Patrick Henry. Yeah. So just a little bit of a wrap-up. I think we said this last week, and I think it still holds true even with half the teams going out from our viewing area. Every one of these divisions, you could easily see a local team winning the state championship.
And nothing happened last week to I think, change our minds about that. I still feel like in Region 1, whoever comes out of there, we think this week it'll be Mentor and St. Edward, but you never know. Euclid and McKinley are both very talented teams. Whoever comes out of there will have a good opportunity to get to Canton.
And even then, you're going to have to play the Cincinnati teams or the Columbus teams or whoever's going to come out of there. And then Division 2 and 3, I think you're almost guaranteed to have a local team. You're pretty much guaranteed to have at least one local team in the state championship game because both those Region 9 and 10, Region 5 and 6
would play each other.
All local teams
unless they do some kind of crazy
Well,
re-bracketing.
they do re-bracket going into the semifinals, but I would be shocked if they didn't put the Northeast Ohio teams together.
Me too. So I would envision that, on Black Friday you would see, who's, an Avon or Avon Lake or Benedictine perhaps play, and I don't want to leave out Wadsworth, play
Holben or Massillon or Mayfield or something like that.
So I can't imagine they would alter that. So I think I agree with you. I think everything, for the most part, held to form from week one. We saw some of the upsets in the lower districts, and we also, despite the fact they were an 8 seed playing a 1 seed, we saw the defending champion Kenston Bombers get knocked out in the first round. But everything else to me didn't surprise me, and I'll be curious to see. Not everybody has had a playoff game under their belt, how they move on and play the following week, and whether that's talking Kirtland, whether that's talking, that Avon Benedictine game, whether you're talking about, Menor or St. Edward. It's going to be very, very interesting to see the transition now from week 1 to week 2 of the playoffs.
Especially now that it's neutral site, and it's going to be, for the most part, equidistant traveling. Sometimes it's a little bit more lopsided. I do remember as a freshman having to, when Twinsburg was the higher seed, having to play Massillon in Canton, even though we were the higher seed.
Wasn't that nice of them?
And I'm not going to say, but the officials may have played a role in Massillon winning that game. Anyway, no,
you don't need to say it. No.
10-7. 10-7. Twinsburg nearly knocked them off. But it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be, now we're really starting to separate the wheat from the chaff a little bit.
Yeah.
Not that whenever you make the playoffs, it's a very good season, but now we're starting to see the cream of the crop here starting to rise above, and we're going to see who's really up for the challenge of getting to Canton.
Yeah, and to me, we're picking a game. Our game of the week will feature 2 teams that maybe we weren't thinking about being the best teams in Region 9, but one of them is going to play for a regional championship, a week from Friday.
And as we mentioned, I think either one of them could win it.
I do too. Chardon and Streetsboro. That will be our matchup Friday night. Dennis Maniloff and I will join you from Solon Stewart Field. We'll be on just before 7 o'clock, about 10 to 7 with our pregame, and then we'll have all the play-by-play as well. Plus, you can check our social media platforms, Twitter and Instagram, for photos and videos of the game, and certainly post-game afterwards, and we'll have our highlight reel courtesy of the man Brian Crane as well. So going to have a fun Friday night for you out in Solon. Again, our game of the week will be Chardon and Streetsboro, but we'll certainly be keeping an update on what else is happening around high school football all across Northeast Ohio. Because I got to tell you real quick, this guy was the envy of everybody at Bedford Friday night because they were trying to figure out, how are we getting scores so fast? I got Tyler Carey on my side. I don't know about you guys. I got TC. I got a TC. I don't know about you.
Just keeping it. And I love one of your lines is, we're getting, because I'm sharing with you like the Seneca East score and the Norwayne score. And I'm like, man, we're getting everything with TC. Like, look, if it's in the DMA, we're going to share it.
Yes.
We care.
Yes.
We are following you. We want you to do well. And
if you live in Jeromesville, we're still giving you scores, okay?
You're still getting WKYC.
Right. If you're living in Sugar Creek, we're still giving you scores. All right, that'll do it for us. Again, we've got more coverage of this game at WKYC.com, and then we'll see you Friday night out in Solon. For Tyler Carey, I'm Dave DeNatale. Thanks for watching our WKYC High School Football Playoff Preview Show right here on 3 News Facebook Live and on YouTube.
Awesome. We went close to a half hour. I apologize.